we have a new symbiote being seen in the trailer for the next Venom movie. News on the Blade movie, which many thought wasn't going to happen. It looks like it's been greenlit again. We have unbelievable casting happening over at DC Studios with the Green Lantern movie. And we're going to end it off with a little Lord of the Rings. How you feeling, Davis?
I'm feeling great. I got a fantasy draft in about an hour, so let's hit him with the news.
Well, we know we have a venomized horse coming in Venom 3. There is a leaked TV spot that's coming out of Russia that shows us a villain, seemingly, a symbiote that we have yet seen before.
There are people that think this could be Lasher because of the green colorway, but it seems like most people, including myself, think that this is probably going to be Toxin.
I think this is a great theory. This is a way that they can bring Carnage into this movie, or a type of Carnage, without having to cast Woody Harrelson.
That's right. So in the comics, Toxin actually is the offspring of Carnage. He's actually the 1000th offspring of Carnage. Now, more often than not, he is a hero. Pat Mulligan, being a cop, wants to use him for good, but he has to kind of strike a deal with the symbiote saying, if you let me be a good guy and use you for good, I will give you a couple hours per night to basically do some not so great stuff. He could be a hero or a villain in this movie, or maybe if he starts off as a villain and then becomes a hero.
And it's interesting because if he isn't the villain, then who is? It's the horse.
The conversation of who the villain of this movie is has largely centered around being Orwell Taylor, but that just doesn't feel like a strong enough villain to me. I mean, last movie we had Carnage, but the previous movie, there wasn't really a centralized villain either. It kind of bounced around, and for most of the movie, it wasn't a symbiote, and then there was the big end symbiote battle, and it never really felt like there was a flushed out villain. And I actually have a theory of who the villain of this movie could be.
Yeah, we were chatting about this theory in the pre-show because we were talking about Kevin Feige's appearance on the red carpet where he wore a hat with that anti-venom symbol. Is it a coincidence?
I don't think it's a coincidence, because on top of that, we also have a leaked collab with the video game Fall Guys for the Venom movie, and the two skins that are going to be coming to that game are Venom and Anti-Venom. So long story short, Eddie Brock, who at this point does not have the Venom symbiote anymore, comes into contact with Mr. Negative. Mr. Negative puts his hand on his shoulder, and his healing powers gets into Eddie's bloodstream, and they attach to the remaining bits of the symbiote that's still in his body. And those pieces attach to his white blood cells, thus creating the anti-venom symbiote. I think this could be a fun angle in the movie if they somehow sneak Mr. Negative in there. We do know that obviously we're seeing the anti-venom logo, we're seeing it in the collab, so it seems kind of likely that we might see him in the movie. And if they want to be true to the origins of Anti-Venom, they have to bring in Mr. Negative. And I think Mr. Negative is a much better centralized villain for this movie than Orwell Taylor. But I don't know if they're going to these lengths to actually hide that from us. I hope that's the case, but we'll have to see.
Now they're saying that this is going to be the last film of the trilogy. Do you really think we're not going to get any more Venom than this? Or could they use this as a springboard to pass the symbiote to another character?
Yeah, I was thinking about that as well. They could be doing this to get the symbiote maybe onto Flash Thompson, who at some point in the comics does have the anti-venom symbiote. Though they've seemingly confirmed that this is going to be the final movie of the Venom series, I don't think that this is going to be the last time that we see Tom Hardy with the Venom symbiote.
We have heard that there's some reshoots that have happened that are being rumored to link off Venom to the greater MCU at large. What do you think about all this news? What do you think about this new character? Do you even care? Let us know in the comment section below.
Now we're going to jump over to some news that we weren't sure if we would ever finally get updates on, and that is the Blade movie.
I have never seen a movie get this type of treatment over at Marvel Studios. Can you believe that it's been 5 years since we got the initial announcement at San Diego Comic-Con 2019? We've got multiple directors, multiple writers. They've redone the script multiple times, and they've even changed the genres that they've been soliciting. Now it's going to be a horror film before an action film. With Deadpool Wolverine's success, there was even rumors and rumblings that the studios were being demanded to switch out the lead actor from Mahershala Ali to Wesley Snipes.
For a while, we've been kind of concerned on if this movie was ever even going to get made. I mean, we're all looking forward to Mahershala Ali as Blade, but we've had so many issues with it that we weren't sure if it was ever going to happen. Well, this last week, we finally got some updates on it from Marvel Studios head of streaming, Brad Winderbaum.
Well, they're talking about it, so that's a good sign. It means that it's still happening. And listen to this quote. They're saying that this is going to be different than any horror we've seen on screen thus far in the MCU. We do have a Marvel Zombies animation coming soon to Disney+, but besides that, really the only thing that's horror themed is Werewolf by Night. And then on the big screen, maybe Doctor Strange?
We did get some horror elements in Doctor Strange 2, which admittedly is one of my least favorite MCU movies, but we got lots of good horror in Werewolf by Night. But when they say that they're doing something different than we've seen before, we were chatting about this, and the only thing that we can come up with really here is the only type of horror they haven't done is true horror. Now, typically to make a true horror movie, you need that R rating, and it has been confirmed that this is going to be the next R-rated movie in the MCU. So could we be getting actual, true, scary, violent horror out of this movie?
True horror in the MCU, that has me excited, especially after reading this next quote. When discussing creating the rule book for horror in the MCU, they stated that it goes back to the filmmaker's intent, which indicates to me that the studios are well aware that the weight is going to be on the directors, which is probably why they've gone through so many up until now. They probably haven't figured out the secret sauce.
I'm personally glad that they are taking enough time to wait and find the right director for this movie. I would much rather them take a long time to make a really good movie than rush out a bad movie that we've seen many times happen in the MCU. And I agree with you. I personally am very excited for Mahershala Ali. I like Wesley Snipes, but I'm really excited to see what Mahershala Ali does with the role.
With the recent success of Deadpool Wolverine becoming the highest grossing film for an R-rated movie, imagine how high of a bar has been set, especially since it featured a beloved cameo of the very same character we're discussing getting their own solo film. I want to know in the comment section below, which actor do you want to see take on the mantle as Blade? Wesley Snipes again, or Mahershala Ali?
Now we're going to jump over to some weird news coming out of DC Studios.
Yeah, this one's a weird one, man. We got casting, potentially, this is rumors, for Hal Jordan. And it's also intriguing because we know that we're probably going to get the 4 Earthbound Green Lanterns. We're talking Guy Gardner, who was already cast as Nathan Fillion. And then we have not gotten word about Jon Stewart, but we know that he's going to be part of this new James Gunn universe. And then the only one that we haven't heard any news on is Kyle Rayner.
So in an interesting turn of events, they are now offering the role of Hal Jordan to Josh Brolin. Now, what's so interesting about that is one of the key reasons that they said they weren't going to offer the role to Henry Cavill to play Superman again was his age. They wanted to have a character that could play these characters for a long time since they're kind of starting this universe from the ground up.
And Josh Brolin is 56 years old, which is also curious considering that Hal Jordan is typically portrayed and depicted as a younger dude, like in his 30s, early 40s at best.
And we know that they're sticking with this age group on purpose. It's not just because he's a great actor. We're now being told that if he turns down the role, Ewan McGregor and Matthew McConaughey are being eyed as backups for Hal Jordan.
Now, this may sound curious, but it does make sense because the show is being described as like a buddy cop type of narrative, one akin to True Detective, which is why they got the same producers from that series. When you think about it, the Green Lanterns are technically a universal police force in the DCU, which is why they're using the dynamic of a buddy cop to tell a narrative, focusing in on a senior Green Lantern, showing the ropes to a rookie Green Lantern. And from what we know, it's going to be Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart.
Which does make a little bit more sense why Josh Brolin and these older actors are getting offered the role. It does seem a little odd considering how loud they've been about casting for the future over at the DCU and making sure that their actors can play these characters 15 plus years into the future. So it is kind of interesting to cast such a prominent character as somebody in their upper 50s, and I'm curious how they're going to roll it into their master plan. Let us know in the comments below if you think this is a weird choice or you think this is a good choice.
Let's wrap it up with one of my favorite franchises of all time, Lord of the Rings. And we're not talking about Rings of Power, but we'll sprinkle a little bit of that in there.
So yeah, we do have updates pertaining to the first of the new live-action Lord of the Rings films coming out in 2026, which is Andy Serkis's Gollum. The new bit of news that we have coming out this week is actually from Gandalf himself, Ian McKellen. So as they're working on this new Hunt for Gollum movie, they have said that they want Gandalf to be involved in some shape or form, and Ian McKellen has gone on record this week to say, "I'm not letting anybody else put on the pointy hat and beard if I can help it," which is pretty cool if you ask me.
This guy's a legend. He's been 2 massive pop culture icons. Yes, Gandalf, but he also portrayed Magneto, and I'll watch him in any movie. And although I'm a big fan of Rings of Power, it doesn't seem to bring quite the weight that Lord of the Rings fans were hoping for. But knowing that Gandalf may be back on the big screen, I think is going to do the trick.
I think most people would agree with you. Ian McKellen coming back as Gandalf would really seal the deal for these movies. And he's gone on record this week saying, "I've been told there are going to be more films and Gandalf will be involved and they hope that I'm playing him. But when? I don't know. What the script is, it's not yet written, so they better be quick."
These are all really exciting things, and I hope that this happens, because one thing that isn't as exciting to both of us, I think we both agree on this, is Andy Serkis being the director for this movie. While we love Andy Serkis as an actor, the man's portrayed some of the most iconic roles in cinematic history. It's the directorial side that we're concerned about.
So while he may be an amazing actor, the two films that he has under his belt as director are Mowgli, Legend of the Jungle, and Venom, Let There Be Carnage. Now, while neither of those are terrible movies, neither of them really live up to the hype of Lord of the Rings.
Clearly, he has a big hill to climb with this, and I want to know your thoughts about it. Can he do it? Will he respect the IP? Will he bring Ian McKellen to the big screen again? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section below, and as always,
Geek responsibly.
enough said.